All right. Hello, everyone. Hope you've had a um, good week so far. Last week, um, happy to be joining all of you again today and continuing our automotive design series. Um, we're still in the sketch phase, um, but I want to move on from that and get into some surfacing soon. So I think we should just go ahead and make some final decisions on this thing and keep it rolling. Um, as I've been looking at the Bach Mono car, I really want to emulate some more things from this vehicle. I just love the way it looks, and this is just about creating a vehicle in Gravity Sketch and everything. So we can take as much inspiration as we want. We're not trying to create um, you know, the next latest and greatest thing. So just something that's cool. So um, so we're just going to continue with getting this worked out sketch wise. Um, if those of you that are watching are new to the series, um, and and what we're doing basically as a recap, this series is focused on basically taking a vehicle all the way from inspirational sketches and references to a wireframe sketch, all the way to surfacing the vehicle, and then actually rendering it with materials for some final renderings. And we're going to be using, I still haven't quite decided yet. I mean, we're definitely going to be using Blender no matter what. I think for materials and sort of making sure the normals and everything are good. And, meshes are mainly actually the UVs because you at this moment at this time the time of this making, you can't actually control UVs inside Gravity Sketch VR. So if we want any kind of texture or anything, we need to make sure our UVs are good as well. So we'll be doing that in Blender. And then we might go to Twin Motion actually for some real-time rendering. We put it in an environment, put it next to a really nice house or something. Anyway, but before we get to any of that, we're just going to dive right into this model. So this is a sketch we've been working on for the series, based off a little sketch here. And yeah, we're just going to get right into it. But this series is really meant to be a deep dive into sort of the main steps into creating a vehicle in Gravity Sketch and some of our flagship tools in the tool, and looking at sketch wireframes, surfacing, sub D, all of that. So we're gonna get into that. And yeah, thank you everyone for joining. This will be available too after it's live. So if you want to go back and watch it, or I think you can actually in YouTube rewind in real time as well. So if you just joined just now and you missed the first 5 minutes, you can actually rewind it and watch it. It won't be live, but you'll be able to actually rewind it back. So anyway, let's get right into it. So I'm just going to look through my layers here. We got their humans, which for some reason the reference image is connected to that. So let's put that in reference. Got our humans. We don't really quite need that yet. And then I already started doing a little bit of surfacing just to see what this thing would look like. And so we have like this front surface here that I made. And so this is just to see what we would be looking at. And maybe we can look at this for a minute and talk about it. So essentially what I did is I basically just used the wireframe to help inform where I was going to build my sub-D surfaces. Usually when I'm building surfaces, I don't start in smooth mode. I start in a low poly mode. So this is basically the faceted sort of low poly mode in Gravity Sketch without any smoothing. This is how the geometry actually looks, and this is the same geometry. So it's essentially if you've ever used Maya or Blender or anything, I'm going to move these two. They're a little bit sort of in the way. You can use a thing called modifiers, and basically it will apply an effect to your model without making it permanent. So you can like go and change it later. That's essentially what's going on in Gravity Sketch, where you have a surface like this, and it's faceted, and this is each individual face, and it's you can see it for what it is. Whereas here, the geometry looks really smooth, but it's the same geometry, and these are like more like control points. And so what's going on here is Gravity Sketch is subdividing and smoothing this surface, so you can see it's still faceted, but it's much smaller facets, while using these as control points. So I don't know if that's actually really relevant, but I'm sure some of you are really interested in that. And so it's good to know these things, actually, to understand how everything's working, so that you can bend and manipulate these rules and just understand what's going on. The more you understand what's going on in 3D, the better your work is going to be. So that's what I usually do, is I usually build the surfaces. So if I grab like a sub-D surface here, actually, let me make sure that was, yeah, sub-D. So smoothing is on. I'm actually going to turn it off. And this is how I usually start. I want to make sure this is on a surface layer as well. So I will, I'll even just start with one plane like this. Just keep it super simple. And then I'll extrude. And how you extrude is you grab an edge like this. So you can see the edge highlights, grab it with your grab sphere, and then you click with your trigger, your index finger trigger, and it will extrude another face. Let me just extrude one more. And so this is our basic surface describing that shape there, which I might have to change later because I don't know if I really like the way that looks. But essentially, like when we smooth it, we have this sort of like blob, because basically it's smoothing. Like basically what it's doing mathematically is it's creating the smoothest path between each of these points, and that's what it's doing. And so if you want to like edge that up a little bit, we'll add an edge loop. And so the way we add an edge loop is we get close to one of the edges, either this edge or that edge. So we can go on this axis or this axis here. And we just lightly squeeze the index finger trigger, and that's how you can slide a edge loop. If you just want to add one, you just click, and you'll add the edge loop. But I usually slide it because I want to position it exactly where I want, and we can add on both sides there. So I just click it there, add another here, maybe another down here. And so now we've got a smooth surface, but still has some angle to it. And that is like the basics of sub-D, is just starting off simple. Don't go too crazy. Start off really basic and simple, and then start adding details. So I didn't really get all these creases until I had the main surface laid out, and really started wanting to add details. So maybe if I select this edge loop here, just as an example, delete these. Grab that, delete it. Just need to grab the whole thing. Yeah. So if I smooth this out, you can see that this kind of just dips down into this crease here. And maybe we'll just, for good measure, just to really illustrate the point, I'll get rid of these two. So this is kind of a smooth dip here. And it's not really describing this kind of harder crease that we want. And so what we do, and everything is quad, so you can only add, there's another principle here to keep in mind, is you can only add edge loops um, if there's a row of quads. So if this suddenly turns into a triangle here, I won't be able to add an edge loop. So let me just demonstrate that as well. So if I try and do the edge loop slide thing that I was talking about earlier, I can do it because this entire row is made of quads. And I can go here, I can add another crease. Oh, actually I can't add a crease there because that does go into a triangle here at the end. So that's actually a great example. We do come to a triangle here, and so that's why we can't add an edge loop. But we can add it on this side, which will give us the sharp geometry that we want. So now you can see we have that crease. And then we do the same thing in the bottom. Bring that down. Oops. Do another one. And now we've got our crease. And so that's essentially how I approach sub D and adding detail is I get the main larger forms that I want first. And then I start adding creasing and everything. Almost, I try to leave that as a really last step. Sometimes I just do it because I want to see what it looks like. You can always go back and delete it later. And if you want to keep it light. So anyway, moving along, I'm just going to maybe we can just get rid of that. I'm going to turn that off, and let's just go through the design of this thing. As I mentioned, I think I really want to reference a lot more of the Bach Mono. I just think it's really cool, and I think there's some really cool things we can do we can emulate with the chassis here, and it's just such a cool design. Even just like the black and white breakup is really, really nice. So I think there really can be something cool with this. Let me go to red here, ink, or different color because this wireframe is red. I think there could be something really cool about breaking this up, like parting it right here. I think there could be something cool with that. And then sort of like ending it right here somewhere. And then this whole piece is like a separate piece. I feel like that could be really, really cool. Maybe it doesn't come to an angle, maybe it's like straightforward or something like that. But something along those lines, that could be really, really nice. So why don't we turn on our mirror, make sure our mirror's on. Very good. So something, if it was split along kind of like that, it could be really cool. So just looking at all these transitions, trying to figure out what would look best. And maybe this isn't like, I feel like part of what's making this weird is this is like really smooth and curved, and then this is like really angular, and the transition between those surfaces is not really I'm not really just liking it. I'm not saying it's objectively bad, but for this design, it's not really working for me. So let's try and make a little more sense and make sure all the surfaces are talking to each other. And maybe it's just something like that, honestly. And then I'm actually going to delete see what we got going on here. I mean, kind of doing exactly what the mono is doing, where it's just going down the front, which could be pretty cool. See, the thing is like when you have a side sketch, like what we have here that started all of this, you can look at the side sketch and be like, yeah, I want that, you know, and you make that. And then once you go into 3D, you see all these edges and curves. And you're like, okay, actually, there's a lot of stuff I need to figure out here, like how this transitions. Like, is this rounded? Is this straight? You know? So, that's part of the time. That's a large portion of the time aspect of the design process is just solving everything. And so I'm doing this in real time and live for you. So I hope it's not boring, but I hope it's informative, just like, you know, how to think and how to work through stuff. And also, if you have suggestions too, like as well in the comments, you know, feel free to leave some, and uh, you know, we can consider that, and I've done that before in the past where somebody says, hey, you should try this, and we just go with it. And so yeah, I almost kind of want to see, instead of like coming from up the top, you know, what do we got going on in the bottom here? Just kind of pulling these surfaces around, seeing what we can do. I almost want this thing to be a lot more open than it is, like less body panels, more, just more open. So I'm afraid to delete these, but I almost just want to, because I want to find a different solution. I'm gonna grab my red here. Oops. Let's make sure we're on the sketch layer. Yeah, that one. Oops. Yeah, just make sure we're on the right layer. Always make sure on the layer that you want. I mean, you can fix it later, but you know, something. I just think there's something different we can do that's really cool. And I want to find it. Just adding points, kind of giving a little angle to these points here. We're just trying to find something. It's interesting. I think the front needs to be. I think the answer is something really simple, and I do like the idea of emulating a little bit of what the mono's doing here, where we've got the wheel well piece as a completely separate part of it. Let's just try and translate that and just see what that can be for our design. So we've obviously got this light here, which I'm going to keep. I like the light. I like the headlamp concept. What I want to change is this area. You know, what's going on here? Maybe, interesting. Maybe it connects there. I kind of like that. That's cool. And then it can like go right into this. And then maybe this surface is duplicated. We get rid of that. And there's like some sort of scoop here. It's pretty cool. And so it's just kind of creased there. And we have sort of a we don't want too many of these like rigid edges like we've done here, because those transitions are, we have to keep thinking about earlier, which we didn't, which is what we didn't like earlier about that transition, about how you know, how these kind of sharp transitions translate into rounded ones. So move this out. If you want, I mean, we can just kind of borrow from the mono here on this. We got this transition. And just sort of take from that. Gotta say though, looks kind of not as cool because we got this point up here. I feel like it'd be better if it was up here, and then yeah, something a little more dramatic. And then we could like lower these down here. If I can raise this. Yeah, that was part of what was making it look weird, is that was too low. You raise just this little more. Raise it. There we go. Bring that up slightly. This is all the figuring out the proportions. So okay, so that's looking a little better. I feel like that's making sense with this vehicle, like what this should be. And so I think it should break like back here somewhere. Let's look at the back side of this. So we should, I'm just gonna get rid of this line because I just really don't like these. I know it's like going off the sketch, but just not not working for me. So let's try and continue this back here. Keep it rounded. And somehow it just goes around like that. So it's cool. I think we're getting somewhere with that, but I don't know if this is the answer, the way this transitions back here. Hey, thanks for joining Sunflower. Thank you, thank you. Make sure to check back if you want to watch the rest of it. Well, let's just look at the front of this, because I think the way I want to break this up is there's something I want to do with that too. So this whole thing, when I made the surface for that, I just didn't really like what it was doing. So I just want to get rid of that. And I want to try something else. Where maybe maybe this ends here. So maybe this is all open. And then yeah. So that's like a separate piece. It's like down here. Then we can have another piece here. It sort of just like transitions into that. It's interesting, but I mean, it would be kind of that would be a way that Nissan would do it. And this was originally a Nissan sort of concept. And I don't want to lose that hip that we've got. We'd have to reverse this. So we'd have to make this like that to make it Nissan. You know? We could do that. And then we could just do like a little crease here. Sort of pull those together there. And then we just need to figure out how we want to transition this area. So this is just the part that's kind of tripping me up a little bit. Because I feel like that does look good when we continue that back, so we need to continue that somehow. And transitioning that is a little tricky. You know, it's... What if we just followed this? I feel like this is like extreme puzzle. It's just like, it's basically like a puzzle. It's what I always say. Sub D just reminds me of puzzles because it really is like trying to solve something. So maybe we could do something like that. So maybe it's kind of rounded. And that would actually work. This little crease, that could work with what we were trying to do earlier, where we kind of had this transition here. Kind of simplify that just a little bit. So that could work. We can pull that over just a little bit. Just going to straighten that out. I want to taper in more. So I'm trying to pull from a little bit from this, a little bit from that. So what we've got with Nissan is we have this, we got this shape, but then we also have this shape as well. So we could pull from that. We could kind of do what it's doing here, where this is all connected. That could be pretty cool. Where instead of like this could actually come up in here up against the light. I'm getting into some wild stuff now. Interesting. Weird. And then what we could do is instead of this, Like, let's just try and recreate that. So if we've got that opening there, and then we have that. And it just goes straight across, which doesn't exactly work for our design because we've got like this pointy front bit. That's okay, we'll work with it. And so we've got so we're really pulling to that front bit there. And then let's see here. Yeah, it's pretty wild. Yeah, so that could do that. Just trying to see how that surface would behave. Yeah, that could be pretty cool. And then we could have some cool kind of mechanical stuff in here. And then we complete sort of our Nissan look. I'm just gonna straighten some of this out. Bring that down, bring that up, up. Okay. Hopefully that's cool when we do the surfacing. That's another thing, is you can try something, you can do something, with wireframe, and then you're like, feeling good about it, and then when you go to surfaces, it's like, it's not really what I thought it was going to look like. But we're going to go for it. And then I think this will transition here. That will be like a part line, basically. So that's another thing too I try to design in with, since we're really trying to go for a nice looking model, I try and design in the part lines as well, like the panels, how the panels would break up. It's definitely a great way to think when you're trying to, when you're working with your model, think about where the panels are going to break up. let's just try and raise this because I feel like it needs to be raised. We're gonna try and match that with our surface here. Yeah. So we're probably not going to finish the wireframe today, but I think what will be good to show all of you now, just in case this is maybe like the only one that you watch, let's just do a little example of some sub-desurfacing, how we would do this. And let's do it for this piece, this whole panel piece here. So essentially what I would do is I'm going to go back and I'm going to create another layer. I'm going to call it test surface, so you can stay organized. And I'm going to go to surfaces, sub-D's on, low poly is good, and then I'm just gonna like create like a neutral color so it's easy to read. And make sure I'm in sub-D, turn that off. How are we doing on time? Okay, looks like we're coming up. And so we've got our panel here. And as I mentioned earlier, we want quads is what we want. So what we're going to do is we're going to basically build our quads in between our sketch here. And we're staying low poly, we're keeping it real basic, real simple. And this transition point, we're just trying to match all the transition points here. Next we're going to extrude up. Here as well. That might be a different. We'll try and connect. Might not look great, but. So we've got that, right? We need another edge loop here because we're also trying to build the wheel well form as well. This is actually a good little lesson. So before we go any further, I want to do this. So what we'll do is we will. How many points is this? So this wheel well is like basically perfectly round, or as perfect as it can be. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 points that we want to. I guess 10, 11 points that we want to connect to. So what we'll do is we'll draw another surface, right? And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, maybe like get rid of this row because we don't need it. And we'll make one more here. And what we'll do is we'll turn on snap. And so what we can do, what we do when we turn on snap is we will see all the other points in our model that we can snap to. And so what we can do is we can take each of these points and yeah, snap it there, snap it to the wheel well, and it will be perfectly aligned to to the sketch there. And so what we can then do is, well, and then we can also take these and snap them as well. Snap, snap, snap. And so now we have a surface that's perfectly aligned to our sketch there. And then what we can do is we can merge them together. So snap, and we're going to go to our subdue, we're going to go to the plus, and we're going to add that surface. And so now we're editing both surfaces. And so what we can do is we connect here, connect there, subdivide again here, connect, connect there, let's see, maybe we need to do that. I need to make another. So you might be finding yourself adding some more edge loops along the way. There. We'll just see how this looks when we smooth it. And so let's go ahead and smooth it. See how it looks. I need to change the material. I feel like something that's readable. And also I want to get my flashlight. There we go. So there's our surface that we built. And you can see how it's subdivided. And because all of this is quads, none of this should be triangles, we can add a crease here where we transition to the wheel well here. And we've got a hard crease there that we have that appears. And then same for the bottom here. We can also add a crease. And we can have that surface described as well. Add an edge loop there, add one there. And now we're really starting to, get somewhere. We can, loosen some of this up because we don't want this to be creased, this area. So we can loosen that up with the smooth tool. Reposition some of that. And so this is how we're going to approach the surfacing of this vehicle. Is we're going to use our wireframes to help guide us where the surfaces transition, where they are, and then we'll use the smoothing. And so this is also connected, so we need to finish this. So I'm going to actually get rid of the creases just to keep it simple, and I'm going to go back to low poly. I like to stay in low poly because for as long as I can, because it really just simplifies everything and it helps you understand what's really going on with the surface and how to fix it. When it's smooth, it's really hard sometimes to understand what's happening. There's that and that. So that's essentially our surface that we've designed. Let's go ahead and smooth it. See what we got going on. So I'm not loving the way this transitions here, but we can maybe bow it out a little bit. Give a little bow to that surface. And then we can I don't know, do we need that edge loop? I don't know if we do. Let's just see if we can work with that. Yeah, it's kind of what I wanted to happen. So we've got that crease. But it didn't do what I wanted. It didn't quite crease it where I wanted it to crease. So we're sort of getting a crisscross creasing. But maybe we'll just try and smooth it out. Maybe that'll work. What we would normally do is really try and follow that topology. So got that crease there. That crease. Let's just turn off our sketch layer. Up here. And get a look at what's going on. So that's how our surface is coming along. So hopefully this makes sense, but this is how we would approach doing the sub-D surfaces for this vehicle. And so we're using our wireframe, as I mentioned before, to guide us, and then we're working mostly in low poly, and then from there we're really trying to follow these so that when we add our detail, when we add our creasing, it will follow the contour. So I didn't really quite do it right. I think I should have built this surfacing how I wanted it to go, and then how I wanted it to transition. So you kind of have to plan a little bit. So when you add the creases, it doesn't crisscross like what it did here. It continued down, but we want the crease to go along this. And so you would want your topology, you would want your quads on both sides of this curve. You would want your quads to follow that curve. Whereas the topology of this surfaces, what the quads are doing is they're going over, but then they're continuing downward. They're not really following along the side. That's essentially the idea. And so we might actually delete this and just rebuild it and just have the quads follow this curve. And then when we go and add our crease, it will follow this curve. We'll be getting into that though when we get full blown into surfacing. So I just want to thank everybody for watching. And we will be continuing this series in future weeks. And like I mentioned before, if you're joining late, this will continue on into surfacing and then all the way to rendering and materials. So it's going to be a fully comprehensive series on how to just go from very beginning all the way to a final rendering and some screenshots, or final renders with materials vehicle using Gravity Sketch. So thank you very much, everyone, and I hope you have a great rest of your Wednesday. Bye bye now.